I'm very, very happy to see all of you here. Before we start with today's session, I want to give you some technical information. After 2 years of pandemic, probably you all know the platform Zoom. Just a reminder, please keep yourself on mute while you're not talking. As this is an interactional seminar, you're always welcome to ask questions. Please do that via the raise your hand button, or you can send a written question in the question and answer section, or you can always just type into the chat. And I really encourage you to do so we can really have an interaction. Also, this webinar is interpreted in Italian language and in English. So if you want to hear Italian, you can click on the little globe and choose the Italian language or the English language. Okay, so far from the technical part. Before I hand over to our opening speakers, I want to give you a bit of context. Today we're here because we start a series of more than 12 online seminars. And with that, we want to try to rethink integration on a European level, which is probably now more important than ever. We have very special guests. One of them is Antonio Silvio Calò, because this whole project, Embracing, which means enhancing migrants' bottom-up responsive citizen-led integration in Europe, is based on his very personal experience of a host of 6 migrants he and his wife Nicoletta took in. So what we try with this project is to see what can we do on a European level and what can we learn from the experience of Professor Calò. And in the series, we focus on different layers of integration, such as elements, such as local policies, but also awareness. So we want to take you on a journey on 12 sessions to, together with you, really rethink what integration means and to learn and share about how we can improve integration and really come to a European model of integration. And in today's session, we have several very wonderful guests, and we divide the session in 2 parts. So we start with openings from UNESCO and from ECCAR. Then we will learn from Antonio Calò and his very personal experience. Then we will learn from the Embracing pilots from the city of Hoce. And after that, we'll have a human rights activist, Fatuma Musa Afrah, who will give a keynote speech on the conditions of learning, which is today's topic. So I stop talking now, and I hand over to our very special guest, Linda TinioLe Douarin. She's the coordinator of UNESCO's International Coalition of Inclusive and Sustainable Cities. Linda, we are very happy to have you here, and it means a lot to the Embracing project, but of course also to the ECCAR as a whole to have UNESCO's support. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you very much, Elaine. Good morning to everyone. Distinguished city representatives, to my fellow panelists, Professor Antonio Silvio Calò, President Benedetto Zacchiroli, Ms. Fatuma Musa Afrah, and of course, ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to be with you today in the webinar on rethinking integration on a European level, organized by the European Coalition of Cities Against Racism, which is one of the 7 regional and national coalitions of UNESCO's International Coalition of Inclusive and Sustainable Cities, or ECCAR, ICCAR. It used to be called the International Coalition of Cities Against Racism. Discussing these issues is more necessary than ever, given the impact of COVID-19 on the well-being and living conditions of many migrants and refugees, as well as the wars and conflicts that are being waged today. I'll give you some statistics. Migrants and refugees have seen their mobility compromised by the closure of borders and travel restrictions. Yet the perils have not diminished. The number of deaths on the sea routes to Europe in the first half of 2021 has almost doubled compared to the same period in 2019 and 2020. Moreover, the vulnerability of migrants and refugees has been exacerbated. Migrant unemployment, for example, is estimated to have increased in more than 75% of OECD countries in 2020. Because of their high presence in certain occupations, they have faced at least twice the risk of infection as the nationals. And of course, we also know that migrant women have been severely impacted by discrimination in access to health, justice, housing, schooling, employment, and so on. For UNESCO, the fight against racism and all types of discrimination that disproportionately affects migrants and refugees is a priority. We are developing a roadmap against racism and discrimination to strengthen our contribution to this area. And we have a particular focus on normative action, on knowledge generation and sharing, capacity development, and advocacy. And we know that this initiative also links to the development of this roadmap. I can tell you why. The city as a unique space for practicing inclusion and reaping the benefits of diversity is central to the development of our strategy for the roadmap. So more than half of the estimated 300 million international migrants live in urban areas, about 1 in 5 in just 20 cities. And UNESCO has therefore focused on the inclusion of migrants and refugees in its work in the international coalition, with now more than 600 members worldwide. So ICCAR is a platform for dialogue, experience sharing, and joint action for local inclusion. As you, the European Coalition, as your partners, as everyone here, embark on testing a European model of integration, UNESCO will of course remain attentive and supportive of this endeavor. We are expanding successful initiatives such as the Global Forum Against Racism and Discrimination, which was launched last year, and it aims to become an annual multi-stakeholder dialogue. We could explore, for example, the possibility of presenting the Embracing Initiative in the next edition that will take place in Mexico in November 2022. So we are very attentive to the development of this initiative. This broad sharing of experiences is also a key element of the international coalition. And in particular, we are going to launch a handbook on welcoming cities. We are also scaling up our masterclass series against racism and discriminations for young people, which just concluded its 17th edition, with the participation of many European coalition members, including its president, Benedetto Zacchiroli. It has now trained more than 6,000 participants around the world. This masterclass could also serve as a venue to rethink and reflect about the learning processes and the enabling conditions to foster inclusive and welcoming cities, as you are aspiring to do in this project. We are delighted to support this initiative, and we are also grateful for our close collaboration with the European Coalition and its partners, and look forward to strengthening it further in the coming months. So working together for a new social contract that translates the commitment to leave no one behind into action is our one and only path. We stand by you as ever, and I wish you a very successful webinar. Thank you very much.
I see a lot of clapping hands, Linda. Thank you very much for the support of UNESCO to this Embracing project. I think it means a lot. And I'm very sure that we will take the opportunities that you just mentioned. So thank you very much. And right after you, I welcome another very special guest who is here for the opening of our Rethinking Integration webinar series, which is the president of the European Coalition of Cities Against Racism, Benedetto Zacchiroli. Benedetto, a very warm welcome to you. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, everybody. So hello, everyone, and welcome to all participants from all over the European countries, and not only the EU countries, but also other countries. I saw that there is also, for example, Karakol, that in Turkey, that is a member city of ECCAR, but is not in European Union, of course, but it's more than welcome, as usual. So before starting, let me thank the organizers of this series of workshops and those who have supported and collaborated in this European project over the years. That the resources of the European Union are put at the service of city networks is a must and a good thing. As the Commission itself recalled in the Anti-Racism Action Plan 2020-2025, saying that local authorities have a lot of experience in developing effective strategies to combat racism and in building networks. This work, the Commission continue, can also draw on cooperation with the network of major European cities and the European Coalition of Cities Against Racism, ECCAR. Our network, ECCAR, also exists for this. It is not just about exchanging good practices, but about sharing ideas and actions that can build the best environment to build welcoming communities that make diversity and inclusion their hallmark. We all know one thing: ideas cannot be improvised. They demand for time, relation, commitment, study, responsibility, and open minds. This is ECCAR. This wants to be embracing moments of reflection and exchange that help all people who work in cities to act better and in a more coordinated way. We could say an embraced way. Cities are places of welcome. Of course, at EU level, when we talk about refugees and migrants, the institutions speak about numbers in a cold way, and unfortunately, rarely about person or people. But we all know that when people arrive in Europe, it is in the cities that they live and meet. Cities are the living spaces. We still have a lot of work to do to transform our union and our cities into welcoming places where all people can find an environment that helps them live their lives with a sense of fullness. To transform our cities in educative communities in which the public environment is made by diversity. You can see around you. This space, the public space and debate we build is the first educational tool we can have. An example of this, of the work we still have to do, is what has happened in recent times. The fact that at the beginning of the war in Ukraine, it was thought to distinguish in the reception from Ukrainians and people with a different origin who fled Ukraine to find refuge in Europe is unacceptable. We have said it as a cities of ECCAR, and it proves how far there is still to go to build our common European home, following the principle that founded it. Perhaps this is precisely one of the points on which we need to reflect and educate ourselves, for us who want to be the welcoming ones. Welcoming is tiring, it's not easy. It means questioning oneself. It means fully understanding all the tons of words with which we have filled during centuries our declarations of human rights, and which we often use to define ourselves as civilization. It is a constant work which never ends. We are the first to have to build an environment in which these principles and these rights are studied and applied. Otherwise, they are just word in the winds. Education is not just a task for those arriving in Europe, but it is above all for European citizens, for citizens who engage in politics and occupy representative posts in the institution, from European level to those in the smallest municipality across our European Union. It is for those who teach in schools, for those who work in public spaces as officers or in civil society. This is the point on which we must insist. Seeing and understanding each other as a society of different people. Europe already is. We just have to tell each other and deepen the richness that lies in our diversity. Build public spaces in which the voice of diversity could be heard. Our diversities have an intrinsic value that is strengthened and enriched in the encounter and in life together. This is the Europe that we want to be ever more united. And this is what we want to do by participating in projects such as Embassy, a small project, of course, but which combined with all the small projects can make Europe great. Not again, but great. Sorry, can make it what it originally wanted to be and what it must to be today. One common space for all people, where aspirations and dreams can be shared for the common good. As spaces in which we are giving voice and listening to the newcomers and their different perspectives. Building an inclusive society where no one feels excluded and left behind, where everyone can be the protagonist. European integration must be thought of starting from this point, from educating us as European citizens. I wish all of us to be an active part in this effort that sees us as important players in process of rethinking European integration that must be continuous, starting from the bottom, from the cities to the top, becoming a good European practice, the result of the voice of all. I wish you all a good time to exchange and learning, and I thank you all for your passions in listening to me. Have a good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Benedetto. I see a lot of clapping hands. So thank you to both of you, Linda and Benedetto, for your warm, welcoming words. I think it just shows how important the topic of integration is. And before we come now to Antonio Calò and to the embracing approach, I want to give our audience the opportunity to see who actually is behind this wonderful embracing project, because what we heard now is that it's an EU project, but I want to now take the time to quickly introduce to you all the different partners, so you get an overview about who is involved in this project. So you see here, when we talk about Europe in the context of embracing, we mean the municipality of Padua, which is the lead partner of this project. We mean the municipality of Sala. We mean the Andalusian Municipality Fund for International Solidarity, FAMSI, from Spain. We talk about the Center for Social Innovation in Cyprus. We talk about us, about ECCAR. We talk about Thessaloniki and the major development agency MDAT. And we talk about the municipality of Ngomi, the municipality of Hoche. We talk About Bolivian Star in Valencia, and we talk about our partners in Altarevo. So you see that this project really thinks European, and this is what all its partners represent. Today's session is about the conditions for learning. Learning is a very crucial aspect for newcomers when they arrive. Learning the language, learning the cultural habits, learning is crucial. But what actually does it need for refugees and for migrants to learn successfully is what we want to talk about today. What are the conditions for learning? Because in this project, of course, we try to test in our different pilots in Cyprus, Greece, Italy, Slovenia, Spain, and Sweden, what is needed for integration. And we start today with the topic of learning. And I now hand over to Antonio Calò. From his experience, this whole project started. Mr. Calò, a very warm welcome. We're very happy to have you here. And we want to hear, or we would love to hear from you, what did you learn from your experience around what conditions are needed to learn successfully? Because I know that your experience, it's huge and it has many, many layers. But today we really want to focus on the aspect of learning and what conditions you and your family needed to provide for the refugees that you welcomed in your home, for them to successfully learn. So welcome, Mr. Calò. The stage is yours. You need to unmute your microphone so we can understand you. And also now for everyone who doesn't speak Italian, you can choose now the English translation. Yes, now, Mr. Calò.
Ok. Volevo intanto ringraziare tutti per...
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me. This is another very interesting and stimulating opportunity to discuss this subject. I would like to thank and congratulate ECCAR and the President, Zacchiroli, as well as Linda TinioLe Douarin, who raised a very important problem. Our ability of making small actions like this and turn them into a useful seed for the whole of Europe. The effort made by the different municipalities, either big or little, it has to be aimed at leaving little signs which can have an impact so that other subjects, other partners can share and support our objectives. This is the reason why I am very grateful to you, and this is the spirit of this wonderful initiative. Going back to the theme of today, which is really a key element. What are the conditions for a successful learning? Based on our experience, which is rather unique, if I may, but one which gave us a very important hints and suggestions, which are key for the experience to be successful. A first key element or a prerequisite for learning in a disseminated reception system was that referring to the idea of accompanying people, coaching people. People have to be able to feel that they are welcomed, but at the same time, they have to feel that they are accompanied and coached. That means that any stage of reception has to be done in a certain way, and the people who are welcomed and received have to feel that they are coached, that there is someone to their side who is there supporting them in all the different stages of this gradual inclusion in a new society. So the first key word is coaching, accompanying. People cannot be abandoned. These people come from, I may say, a different world. They come from very far away. They have to be helped to understand where they are and what we want to do with them, what is possible to do with them. To do that, we have to be next to them during all stages. A second key element is understanding the language. Sometimes that was considered as a necessary element, but not an essential one. We felt that we did not have to mandate them to learn another language. I think that no full inclusion is possible if people don't speak the language. This is the way we can understand each other. This is the way we can communicate the key things among us. I mean, the people accompanying these fragile, delicate people who we call migrants and refugees. When time comes that they are included at the workplace, speaking the language is essential. So the second essential condition is speaking the language of the country. That is intended as a bridge to understanding each other. To me, the first thing, together with being coaches of these people, together with helping these people, being next to them, they have to understand. Just think of my family. We have always used Italian among us so that they could hear the sound of Italian, so that could become something of their daily routine. Then they, if you learn the language, you can attend schools. So insisting that my children coming from far away to go to school was a key element, because there they met other boys like them who had the same need. So they had the possibility to share the same need, to see that other people have the same needs. So not only migrant and refugees with a negative connotation, but also people who are in Italy for a short period of time, maybe workers or students who come to Italy for a limited period of time. Indeed, teaching can happen in a more private dimension, but I would favor the fact that they are included and study at school institutions. A third element, which is equally important, is psychological support. Having a psychologist helping us was a key element that contributed to their learning. And what are they supposed to learn from psychology? No, they have nothing to learn from psychology. Simply, we have to put ourselves in the best of conditions for best learning. To do that, I have to be relaxed, tranquil, as much as possible. A large majority of these people had terrible trauma. They are suffering. We cannot neglect that. It is therefore very important to give them psychological support, which is useful to lay the conditions for a comfortable learning environment. Conversely, if we don't understand, if we don't help people to accept or to work out their traumas, because it's difficult for many of them to speak of a trauma, but we have to make an effort so that they can understand that if you share your suffering, that means that you lay the basis for a real welcome and not something which is fake or superficial. True, deep reception. Then the person feels that they are included into a project. That starts from the fact that we understand that they had to escape, to flee, that they had fears, that they were restless, and that is the reason why they ran away from their country of origin. And that was the third element. There is a fourth one, which is also a prerequisite to have people included and learn and to become citizens, as President Zacchiroli said, and that should be done in the best place for inclusion. And the idea is that of meeting the members of the community who is receiving them, or meeting the community surrounding the family, hosting them, or the different agencies. That can happen in many different ways. We might have people going to meet the new comers or the would-be citizens at the community level. This is one of the most beautiful things. I mean, you go and meet people. That is a very clear and open sign of reception. On their turn, people who had been welcomed have to go out, to reach out and meet other people. There are different opportunities to do that. We can have what we call institutional organized meetings, but we also have daily informal meetings. For example, we may go out of home, the family can do that, the social workers, they can go out and do normal things together. That is, buy food, go to the post office or to the bank. And that should be done together so that we can make people known to the community. There are also other activities, for example, being volunteers to support and help others who are in need, so that they can understand that they are not the only one in needs, but there are also other fragile people in the community, and they can help. So that they can understand that they are like us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just wanted to remind you about time, to invite you to try to wrap it up, to come to an end.
Chiudo. Grazie.
Thank you very much. Sorry. There is something very nice, for example, doing sports activities together. As for the conclusions, let me share my general view. We should not be afraid of asking these persons to live that experience by sharing together. Sharing should be mutual, two ways. We should not be one in the front of the other or behind of the other. We have to be next to the other. This is the real reception, and we should not be afraid of crossing diversities, because we have to be aware that welcome and reception is a key brick to build the true and real peace among people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Calò. I see a lot of clapping hands. I think it was very, very helpful to learn from your experience, which was somehow like the foundation for the 6+6x6 approach. And before I hand over to our colleague from the municipality of Hoche, of course, we want to know who is actually there, because today we unite like NGOs, activists, and city administrations from all across Europe. And of course, we want to involve you. So you see now in the chat a link where I would ask you to click on. In this link, you are asked from what organization you are from which city and country you are from. And before I hand over to our next speaker, I would love to see who's actually here. And if the link isn't working for you, please let me know. Then I can check. And you can follow that live. So we see here, we have guests from Italy and Cyprus, from Kadikoy in Istanbul, from Greece, from Montpellier in the south of France, from ECCAR here in Heidelberg, from the Embracing pilot in Sala, Michaela, very warm welcome to Sweden. Let's see who else is there. The University of Valencia, Spain, Nicosia from Cyprus, from the CSI. Another representative from Kadikoy in Istanbul. So let's see, there should be 30 persons in the room. So let's see, another representative from Kadikoy, representative from Greece, Thessaloniki, a guest from the University of Oxford, a guest from the UNESCO Center for Human Rights in Graz. Warm welcome, Klaus, to you. Our guests, of course, and partners of the Embracing Project from FAMCI in Andalusia. Okay, there are some answers missing, but I think it gave us like a very good idea on who is actually here today. Welcome to all of you and thank you for sharing. And I have a next question to you, which you see here. As all of you are professionals and somehow active on the field of integrations, and also, of course, you yourself have learned or have been to a school at some point in your life, I would love to hear, what do you think for yourself? What conditions do you need to learn successfully? So I share again now in the chat a link, and you should be able to fill out the answer. And I think this is a very crucial moment to gather all the knowledge we have inside this room and to start from your experience. So what conditions do you need for yourself to learn successfully? Okay, it is important to have an open mind and to be able to interact. We need respect, open-mindedness, flexibility, inspiring teachers, face-to-face interactions, opportunities to explain oneself, a pleasant environment, any other ideas? What do you need for yourself to learn successfully? Time, I think it's also a very important aspect, time to dedicate and interesting topics. A good organization and functioning time management, visual material, peers learning with me. Okay. A trusting environment where one feels welcomed and safe. Field research, if possible. Okay. Thank you all very much for sharing what are actually your conditions for learning, which I think is a very valuable resource, and it can be of help for our discussion. We have even more confidence, safety. Thank you. Okay. Now, as we hear and as we learned from you, I want to hand over now to one of our pilots. So as you know, the Embracing project, drawn from the experience of Mr. Calò, is now tested and developed further in different pilot cities. And during our series, each of these pilot cities will introduce their work and of course focus on one specific aspect. Today, we focus on conditions of learning. And I'm very, very happy to welcome my fellow Embracing colleague, Marina from Hoce. She will share about the work of the pilot in Hoce, and she will focus on the specific conditions for learning and the challenges and learning you are facing. Welcome, Marina. Good to see you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Let me share the screen.
We see your screen perfectly fine.
Great. So I come from municipality of Hoce Slivnica. As you can see, it is in the northeastern part of Slovenia, close to city Maribor, that is the second largest city in Slovenia. So the municipality is predominantly rural area. It has around 12,000 inhabitants, and the neighboring city Maribor has approximately 100,000 inhabitants. The municipality is implementing Embracing project together with Slovenian Red Cross Maribor. Our project office is also located in Maribor Center. Other integration activities are carried out in the municipality's local market and its multi-generational centers. Our participants have all refugee status and they live in Maribor at private addresses. They are 9 persons from Syria and Iran. In 2020, approximately 300 beneficiaries of international protection reside in Maribor. There is no local strategy for integration. Municipalities don't have migration policies in place and they don't connect with other municipalities or share experience regarding migration. Local NGOs are implementing the National Integration Program and some other EU-funded projects. Our local team of professionals consists of individuals that are employed by the municipality, by the Slovenian Red Cross Maribor and other NGOs. So we are integration associate, integration assistant, 2 cultural mediators, and 1 student who is preparing computer skills training. So we all cover the whole topics of holistic support. Some support is already covered by the National Integration Program, but we fill in the gaps. So we cover topics: lawyer, social worker, psychologist, teacher, doctor, and cultural mediator. The experimentation started in June 2021, and it will last until October this year. So what we do regarding conditions for learning. Here I would like to expose thematic language sessions or workshops. It is connected with work package 4, the experimentation of the model. So firstly, we assess the needs of participants through ethnographic research, and we create a safe environment. Usually we start with small chat. I would also prepare some coffee, tea, and so on, and then we start learning. We prepare different thematic language sessions. The focus on practice instead of traditional lecture. We use a lot of visual materials, and we discuss solutions to everyday issues and obstacles and learn new words in each topic. We work in small groups together with cultural translation mediator and translator. So this way participants can truly understand grammar and compare it to their language of origin. So we already have a good result. 4 participants had to pass the A1 language exam and 3 have passed, which is actually very difficult for refugees. They already had 3 hours of...
Marina, sorry
Yes.
to interrupt. You can maybe click on your presentation so we can see the slides you are referring to.
You don't see it?
We only see the first one at the moment, but I think you're already in the next one, right?
Yes.
Yes, now we
can
see the
this.
next. Yes.
Yes, this is the explanation of our organization. And now the third one, the experimentation of the model.
Mm-hmm.
So the result, 3 participants passed the A1 language exam, which is very difficult for refugees because they have obligatory 300 hours Slovenian language course by the government, but it is very traditionally prepared. So it is not tailored or personal. You can see the pictures, how we are working. And the next, challenges. So the general challenges, there is the lack of assistance for migrant children when enrolling in schools or kindergartens and additional help following regular programs. Schools have to cope on their own with these issues. There is also insufficient adult education system for illiterate persons and those who are illiterate in Latin alphabet. There is a big gap of standard operating procedures in various aspects of life situations for migrants. So the government is looking for ways to formally include local communities into the integration process. This was defined in the migration strategy from 2019. And one biggest challenge is lack of interpreters and cultural mediators. So the government doesn't provide professional interpreters. It engages mostly beneficiaries or volunteers from the NGO. So this would be my part for the first webinar.
Thank you very much, Marina, for giving us like an idea of what you are doing in Hoce. And I think what came through and what is also a very crucial aspect of Embracing is the holistic approach. And this holistic approach, it's of course also referring to the conditions of learning. And I think this is also what makes the Embracing project different, coming like from this family experience, then developing the 6+6x6 approach, which Marina shared. And I just want to clarify with all of you, what does that actually mean? So it means that part of each pilot is a psychologist, a social worker, a cultural mediator, a teacher, a lawyer, and a doctor, part of the team that the Calò family had. And each pilot, of course, developed this holistic model further and adapted it to their local context. And I think, Marina, you shared some really important points. I actually like a lot the aspect of making a coffee before you start, because I think this is really crucial for creating an environment where people feel welcome to learn. So now we are actually done already with the first part of our webinar. Our next guest speaker, Fatuma Musa Afrah, who is an award-winning human rights activist, is already waiting, but I think it is crucial also to have breaks. Hi, Fatuma, good to see you. I have to disappoint you because we'll now do a 10 minutes break. So you can all just stand up a little bit, take a cup of coffee, and we'll start again 5 past 30, like 10:35. We'll continue with the input of Fatuma. So see you all in 10 minutes. Welcome back to everyone. I hope you managed to get a cup of coffee or probably send some emails. But now we want to focus on our next guest. Welcome also to the new ones who joined us on Facebook. Welcome to the second part.
Dottoressa mi sente? Volevo dire, dottoressa mi scusi se la disturbo, volevo dirle.
Mr. Calò.
No, volevo dirle che io purtroppo adesso devo scorrere a scuola, quindi devo salutarla e ringraziarla per tutto.
Ok.
È una cosa che mi dispiace moltissimo.
Okay, now Mr. Calò is muted. Well.
Sorry, this is the interpreter speaking. Mr. Calò was saying goodbye because he has to rush to school, and he just wanted to say thank you to everyone, and he really enjoyed that's it. Okay.
Thank you so much. Bye, Mr. Calò. Ciao. Okay, so we come to the second part on today's Rethinking Integration session with a focus on conditions for learning. I'm very happy to introduce to you a very, very special person. Fatuma, welcome. You are an award-winning activist. You're born in Somalia, you're raised in Kenya, and at the moment you're active in Germany. Wherever you are, you live for unity. You founded an association called United Women and Girls, and you help. You help on a local level, you help on a global level, and you work on women empowerment, inclusion and integration. And education and learning, especially for women, is a topic very close to your heart because you know what it means or what conditions are actually needed for young migrant women and newcomers to learn successfully and to feel empowered. But you are not only working with communities and migrant and newcomers, you're also working as an advisor for example, the German government, but also several foundations. So we are very happy to have you here as a speaker today. Welcome. And of course, we're all looking forward to hear from you, from your very personal perspective, what are the conditions for learning? Of course, especially for young women and girls, as this is your focus. The stage is yours, Fatuma. Welcome.
Hi. Hello. Hi. Good morning. Thank you so much, my dear Evan, for having me here. And I have to be honest, I'm tired of Zoom. I wish Zoom knows how much I don't like it. And I hope this Zoom ends soon. Yes, I think this is a very, very interesting topic that we all the time talk about. But before I continue with my input, I want to say, please be all a messenger, because I don't have to tell you this because you're all doing an incredible work and you understand this. But for us to be a messenger for the outsiders, let us always use this sign. I like to use this sign because I always say integration is a two-way process. It's a two-way journey. And that is a political message that people can understand. The word integration does not have a problem, but the explanation and the political attachment of discrimination towards minorities is what is the biggest problem. Now back to the main topic. What are some of the conditions for learning for women and young women as well, girls, when specifically we talk about? We United Action, Women and Girls, IFA, we mainly work more in the countryside where there's not much going on. And mind you, just imagine, I am called Evain. I am 16 years old. I come from Afghanistan. I am new in Germany. I came with my family and I need to catch up with school because I have to go to school. Imagine I do not speak any German. I do not understand the German system of education. And probably I'm very lucky because I had some basic education back home in Afghanistan. But again, I'm not educated back home in Afghanistan because that was not an opportunity I had. And I'm very motivated to go further in my education. And then you come to a system which is absolutely something that you do not understand as a child. Now you are lost as a child between two cultures and two systems. There's an Afghanistan system here with you still, and there's the German system where you live now. This child goes to school and they are told, oh, we welcome newcomers. I like to use the word newcomer. Refugees are word internationally welcomed, but I love for social inclusion to use simple words that are less labeling and discriminative as politically used. As a young girl, you go to school, you start your classes, you do not understand the language, number one. You do not even understand the system, like I said before, number two. You do not have friends to help you in this process, number three. You do not have parents who are educated to support you in this process, number four. And above all, you go every day to school and you experience so many different challenges, including discrimination, racism, and lack of support. And when you come out of the school, you know, you don't have further support system, like evening help to help you catch up with even the language before even the subjects. Because for anybody to understand anything, how do you even proceed from the basic stuff? So it's like, pick this phone, put it there, sit in the class, because the German government says every child must go to school and you have to sit there and listen. And then the lesson's over, you go home. Tell me, how do you want to empower this 16-year-old girl that you say we're here to empower girl child education, we're here to empower women's rights, we're here to support these young girls to not get engaged in early marriage or have a life for the future, because this generation is very important. So tell me, who's the failure here? What are the conditions for learning? What do this child need for them to progress? And mind you, this little girl, most of them have shown their parents not been educated, the mothers who are the role models at home. They have not experienced that. And above all, these children come with a baggage of psychological problems, mental health problems, language barrier, which is not even put into consideration when they go to school. And then here comes the long-term situation. This child continues in school, continues, they see it's just, I have to do it, I have to go because I have to save my parents from them not thinking that the system, that they denied me to go to school, it's a condition I have to fulfill. But we have to think, if we are honest, in how to support this young generation of newcomers and migrant societies who are here in this community. Most of them do not even feel welcomed locally. They do not even feel being a local. They have a label like an auto. You know, the auto has a number plate. So you already are a refugee. So what is next? So what we need to focus is the government need to adjust their policies and include these youngsters and listen to their voices, listen to their needs and priorities, make them important, make their voice heard. And you are investing so much money to help these people. But how much does this mean in terms of results, the quality? It's not about the quantity, it's more about the quality. How is this helping? And mind you, most of these young women and girls and women who are in the countryside, they are forgotten. And the biggest challenge is many of the local governments are not even investing a lot in looking into these issues, because even these rural areas, they are weak, they're structurally weak areas. They have less economical equalities than others. So for them, this is another added problem. But the biggest challenge for me is also, let me come back to the local community, the people themselves, you know. These people need welcome, love, motivation, solidarity, tolerance, support. All these packages, what comes in about women's rights empowerment. And the biggest frustration of all, I don't want to generalize. There are good examples out there that are trying their best. But for me, there's two sides here. There's the system, the government here, and the system for the newcomers and with the newcomer women and girls. And these two systems are absolutely two different ones, because the needs here in the system is very one-sided, absolutely, their own way. And the needs here and priorities of these women and young girls are different. I wish I think there was an input already from the rural areas. It's so painful to observe a woman being here 7 years in this community who cannot even speak 2 complete sentences of German. Even those who are accepted in this system, they say, oh, we received refugees here, oh, we have newcomers here. So this is the biggest problem. Okay, they're here. Are you counting them for numbers, or are you counting them as human beings who can add values to the community? So what we have to focus here, we have to advocate more in our policies, and the local government needs to take a lead, a priority, use their voices to show that it's not enough to say they're here. They need to be there with visibility and acceptance. And what they need is to have a sense of belonging. If you do not feel welcomed, if you are being attacked constantly on the streets, you go to the system offices, you're not treated as you should be treated. You are being racially discriminated based on how you look, what you wear. Tell me, what sort of education are we talking about? Tell me, what sort of education are we talking about? Imagine you're a young mother. I remember many young women who came here and said, yes, I just have one child. I want to go to education. I want to get empowered. I want to support myself. And then along the line, you just see this young woman at the age of 25, 23, draining, shifting, demoralized, discouraged, excluded. And what is the result there? She says she comes from a society and culture that wants to control her. I don't want to say everyone experiences this, but the majority experiences this. They do not even have support in their own system, because a lot of these young women and women are running away, not just because of war. They're looking for freedom. They want to be independent. They want to live their normal life. They don't want to live under control and under oppression. So whose responsibility is it to support these women to live the kind of a world they want to live as a woman? We are the voice. There are a lot of incredible organizations out there who are doing great job, but they lack support of the politicians. They lack support of the government, from the local to the federal level. There's a law. Wait, there's a law that says, oh, there's a policy, ABCD needs to be done. It's one thing to have a law or a policy, but it's another thing to act and practice those laws. For example, they say nobody is supposed to be discriminated or racialized, but this is a daily struggle for many young women out there in schools, on the streets, in offices, everywhere, in the basic lifestyle of their daily living. So whose laws are this? Are they there to be implemented and to be acted on, or they're there for storytelling? We have to separate between reality and theory. We have to really learn this. And one thing that I want to say loud and clear again and again, education is everything. It's not about someone carrying a book and going to school. No, for me, from our personal experience of working with these women 6 years and a half, almost going to 7 years, what we came to learn is that these women actually, they need so much tolerance, patience to be part of the process. The process is a long, long way to go. The question is the German community, the German government ready for this? Because it's not enough to say, oh, when you're in Germany, you need to learn German, you need to get an Ausbildung, you need to work. Hey, it's easy to say that. Don't forget the history of these women, where they come from and who they are as women. So what we need to work on is the education about the very basic understanding about their women rights. That is number one education for me. That's the first precondition. Show them support, show them love, show them solidarity, make them feel they are welcomed. Help them participate. Don't put them in isolation shelters, in refugee camps and other excluded spaces and claim that that's integration. That is absolutely labeling. They need to feel they're part of the community. And how do we do that? We need mentoring support. We need to provide tandem support. You know, I need a woman just one time, just one once in a month to go for a walk with a coffee. Can you imagine the love you're showing this woman, the thinking she has? We need to do some tour guide. Let them go to offices where women work. Let them see what women right means from a practical perspective. Let them see how a woman is driving the train. Let them see how a woman is working in a restaurant, not just being a waiter, but being the manager, controlling everything and checking and managing and directing everything. Show these practical examples, take them out. This way is education. Give them the language courses in their language. Those who do not even know how to write ABCD, support them in that process. Can you imagine in this countryside, how many people could support? Sometimes you realize that there's some countrysides where the newcomers are more than the locals. How dare you? How dare you? How can you put human being in that condition? There is so much confusion for the locals also. So to conclude, we need, number one, motivation, empowerment, inclusion and participation. The local government need to bring these women in and young girls, and we need to support them from the very ground basic. Above all, it circles to something called building trust and making them feel honored or welcomed. If you have any question, I think I can tell a lot, but if you have any question, you can ask me, but I can continue. Do I have more time, Yvain? I'm just looking at your face. You're like, ah.
No, your time passed, but I think it was like a really great overview, and I want to use the remaining time, first of all, to thank you very much, and then to ask our audience if there are any questions for Fatuma. You can use the raise your hand button, or you can use the Q&A section, or you can ask a question in the chat. Okay, while people are thinking, I would have a question for you. So I would love to hear from you, because you work a lot with young girls and women, of course. What do you think was like, what makes learning successful for them in a way that, because we now talked a lot about conditions for learning, that motivation is crucial, tandems are crucial, mentoring, love and solidarity. But from your experience, what were or have been moments of success for the women and girls you worked with when it comes to learning?
Come again, your voice is cutting. I can't get your voice clear. Moments
of success, you know, like we talked a lot about the conditions for learning.
You're asking me, if I got you correctly, what are some of the success stories, if there are any? Is that correct?
Yes, and then there is one other question. Fatuma, how did you manage to get where you are? Two questions.
So number one, the success stories are the girls themselves. These are very courageous women, younger women, who really took themselves through. In fact, we have two young ladies who are the leading girls in their classes, and they made it themselves. They made it themselves, because I tried to talk to them and I say, wie hast du das gemacht? Naja, ich bin sehr glücklich, dass I'm lucky that I learned the German language, and that some of them are shying to tell you, you know how. But the success stories, from what I know, is themselves. This is my answer. And me, I don't know. I think people like you empower me to get more energy and motivation. But above all, I don't want to compare myself to everyone else, but I know that I'm privileged. You know, when you speak English and you have some sort of education, you always have a privilege than other women. So I'm really privileged, and I'm really lucky that I have a lot of incredible people who support. Did I answer your question? I'm not good in talking about myself. Sorry.
No need to be shy, Fatuma. I think you answered the question quite.
These are some of the moments that I feel, you know, normally I claim that I'm not a shy, but there are moments when
Well,
yes.
So thank you very much. There is one other question Fatuma, do you think that a framework policy valid for all EU countries for social inclusions of migrants is possible? You know, like that there's a framework that works all across EU countries. What do you think? Is that possible?
This is politics. I believe yes. Absolutely yes. I want to say one thing from German, for example. The system is one-sided. You know, this system are for the Germans, you know. When an outsider comes here and they're living here and they do not understand the education system, you know, you are absolutely left out. Because if you are 25 or 30 years old, but you want to get primary certificate because the educational qualification is different, and then you want to, you know, fit into the qualification system, then you are told to backtrack everything. Then you have to come with Abschluss, something called primary level or high school level, finish it. Then you can join the Ausbildung, but before the Ausbildung, then you have 1 year practice. Some people have patience to go to some of this. Germany is the mother and father of bureaucracy. But people try to understand, and you know, those who are, I remember a guy who is now 8 years here, he's still in his Ausbildung. And I said, I congratulate you, man. And he's continuing, he's doing his nursing. You know, he never wanted to give up. He didn't want. But I believe, yes, it's possible to have one. But that will need a lot of advocacy work, and it will need a lot of unity and actions among the different active and incredible civil engagement organizations, and also the local government who really want to see the success here. It's very possible. Nothing is impossible. It's us who is making impossible things, but everything is a flying possibility. Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Fatuma. I think you did the perfect conclusion also for the opening series, because today we had a lot of talks also with like officials from UNESCO, from ECCAR, which shows also the importance of the political level that you just mentioned, right? And the Embracing project as a whole actually is trying that, right? To test if it's possible to have a European model of integration and to continue to learn and to question the current status quo in the different European countries. And
they need creativity and rethinking. They need creativity in this, and tell them to talk to the people, please, before they make any decision. Let them talk to the people directly. Take them to the faces of these people, and make sure that wherever committee is developed, make sure you have ambassador voices, you know, from the people themselves, so that it's a two-sided process, that it doesn't me sitting there pretending to be a mother with 5 kids, but I have the motivation to go to school. I have 3 kids in school. The school system is not supportive for parents who do not speak German language. You're being called to school. You're told your child has a problem. You cannot even talk there because the language is not there. You go to school. You're told that it's a parent meeting, and you cannot even participate there. So there's so much challenges that the system need to improve if they really mean it. But it's one thing to talk. It's another thing. Thank you so much. But I know they're trying. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Fatuma, for your keynote on today's session. And as I'm very German, I like to end on time. So
I am mother German. Thank you so much for having me. It was highly a pleasure. Thank you, everybody, and choose. I know I don't see your faces, but thank you so much. Choose.
Bye. I see a lot of clapping hands for you.
Thank you so much. Much love.
Okay. So thank you, everyone, for joining today's session on the opening series of Rethinking Integration on a European level. We focused on conditions of learning, and I think we heard and we learned a lot what preconditions are, starting from seeing the migrants, the newcomers, the refugees as holistic human beings, actually, and not only as numbers. And you, our guest speakers, Antonio Calò, Benedetto Zacchiroli, Linda from UNESCO, mentioned many different things. So I don't want to bother you in repeating them, but I think what was made clear that the condition is that really social relationships matter. Tandem systems, mentoring, to have patience, to show love and solidarity, but also to don't forget about the specific needs of young women and girls and the needs of childcare, for example, for a very important precondition for learning. And I think what also all of our different speakers mentioned today is that the people, the newcomers who arrive in different European countries, they bring their history, they bring their baggage. So psychological support is really crucial for learning experience. And I hope that with this opening series, we could show you what we plan or how we want to continue to rethink integration. And I love to end with Fatuma's gesture, this one, which I think is quite great and fitting to show that integration is a two-sided process and that we all have to contribute something. Before we end, I want to give you a quick outline on what is happening next. So you know that with the Rethinking Integration series, we start a whole series of really adopting, changing perspectives on different aspects of integration. We start with the elements of integration today with conditions of learning. We will continue in half an hour already with learning as an act of empowerment. Later on, we'll focus on employment, on private companies, and on housing and health. As a next part, we want to focus on local policies around integration, which I think we learned also from Fatuma, that policies are crucial when we're talking about finding and testing the integration model on a European level. There also, we're going to talk about policy coherence, practices of policy coherence, the integration of different stakeholders on a local level, and also new ways of local participation and partnerships. In the end, we come to the topic of awareness, which I think also all the speakers of today's session showed how important it is to have an open mindset. And in this session, we want to focus on questions around gender, racism, privileges, power, white saviorism, and discrimination. I think especially in the light of the racism that refugees are facing now, Black refugees, Sinti and Roma refugees on the Ukrainian borders, I think this is a really, really crucial topic as well. So I hope to see all of you again. Today's session was a lot of input, but opening sessions have to be like this because it's important to show all the people behind the project. But I can promise you that the next sessions will be way more interactive and including all your different perspectives. So thank you all for coming. And I hope to see you again in half an hour when we continue with our session on learning as an act of empowerment. Thank you very much for joining and have a nice day. Bye.